working with government and development,
Yeah.
infrastructure planning, how would you rate government's use of data?
That would be subjective saying that. I know as a pollster, I have to remain scientific and very objective. So, for instance, if I were to run a poll, what do people think? But I'll give you my opinion. I think that they could use it better. I think that most of the data we have is outdated. And I think that, a lot more resources and funds should be put towards new research to support the data that we have. So if I'm looking at data and data is saying 2012, 2014, that's a whole 1.5 years. Things change. And that's why even as pollsters, when we're polling every week, we always say that events can change the results of this poll. So the fact that today this poll is saying that doesn't mean that if an event occurs, people won't think differently.
Let's use the population, for instance. There have been this back and forth. We're 160 million, we're 170 million, we're 140 million. It's a back and forth. There's no exact figure to say this is the population, even though they say the growth rate is about, I think, 4% or 5%. Even that is not certain. So how would that help?
Okay, for us, we depend largely because, we have what you call a sampling universe. So we use the National Population Planning Commission. So if you say the last census we had 163 and we're growing at 2.3% in terms of population, what you do is really to extrapolate to the year from the last year and extrapolate and use that. Like I said, I think that government should give more resources or get more resources dedicated to research because research is expensive. I'll tell you that as a researcher. And, our agencies do need that support in terms of all the money that has to come in to support and then update the data that they do have. So I think the government uses what they have, but, it could be better in terms of making it more current.
What about feedback that you get? Because, when you started, it would have been different by now because now you do a wide range of topics. I say sports,
yes,
politics, you talked about electricity.
Yeah.
How are people responding to these polls?
Very well, actually. It's really very encouraging. You do have, of course, but again, in the minority, those that are skeptical and critical of the work we do. But then the majority are quite, responsive, to what we do. They want to understand how we do it. They want to understand the methodology. We have an open door policy. You can come in, see how the calls are being made. You can come in, see how the analysis is being done. We always have an open day every year where people walk through the office and we walk you through the NOI polls experience. It's great because our data is timely and relevant. So people are looking for things about Nigeria in the open space. In fact, what I would say that the international community actually a lot more appreciates what we do, because we have people writing from Harvard, writing from Columbia University saying, we've been following through with your approval ratings and, monitoring social media chatter around it. Can you send us maybe like the database? Let's just understand, what you've done over 7 years. So we have people that are so excited because for once they can see what Nigerians are thinking. We're the only go-to when the anti-same-sex marriage bill came out. We're the only ones that had polled on that last year when it was first passed in the House. So every international organization was like, wow, we didn't even know someone could actually collect opinions scientifically and show that. So, we're pretty happy, but we still exactly want to push this model across Africa because, we need to hear African voices more. People need to speak out more.
How do you pick your topics?
We as a team sit down. For the topics that we do, that's the CSR, the one that's in the public space, we sit as a team every 2 weeks, and we have a product called Buzz in the News. What's been in the news for the week? What are people talking about? What are issues that Nigerians are very pertinent? People are very, and then we pick that. For instance, we just released on Tuesday the World Cup, FIFA World Cup poll. Nigerians are in huge support of Super Eagles. Of course, the second team was Brazil. But we just tend to want to fail.
That's a wide disparity. It's 7% support Nigerians and 18% are supporting Brazil.
Yeah, you would want to support your Super Eagles. I'm a huge supporter
yeah.
of our boys.
And of that sample size, I see 89% women.
Yes.
So when I hear my discussing
And there's no
sports,
scientific basis for that, right? I mean, it's
No, it's scientific.
89%.
what I mean is there's no scientific basis for your feeling, for your support. I mean, did you find out whether they thought that they had very bright chances or it was just blind support in terms of how you feel towards, a loved one, maybe?
You know, with football, that's why we have football fans, fanatism. You know, it's about your love for the sport and your love for the person or for the team.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have a home team in World Cup, and, definitely if you say who do you think would win, I mean, the first thought to you would be, so what can drive it then again is fanatism, which is the love for the game, love for the team, or just that you're being patriotic.
Yeah.
I'm Nigerian.
My point is that has nothing to do with science, right?
Because I was wondering, when you did ask them in the second question, in your opinion, which country do you think will win the FIFA World Cup? 50% said Nigeria. I'm like, who have you been speaking to? How? They say 50% say Nigeria will win, and 32% say Brazil will win.
Do you get people questioning the results of your polls?
Yeah, people do that. I mean, that's allowed. That's allowed. You're
For instance,
allowed
he's
to-
saying, who have you been speaking to? 50%
Okay, so-
of Nigerians.
So are you saying...
73% are female, 46% male.
Okay. So tell me what your question...
Now, I'm just wondering, I mean, just as you said,
Yeah.
don't people question and saying, listen, that there's no way you can say Nigeria will win the World Cup, 50% saying that, as opposed to 32% saying Brazil will win?
Okay, so if I were to ask you now, who would win the World Cup?
I certainly wouldn't say Nigeria.
Okay, so you would be in the group.
Maybe I will look for the follow-up question, asking them, why do they think Nigeria will win?
Okay,
Maybe
no,
that
but
could help
that
me
follow-up question
appreciate-
will come if you only get into Nigeria would win. You understand? So that follow-up question would ask. If you had said Brazil, then that follow-up question wouldn't come.
But to say 50% thinking Nigeria will win, okay.
Well, when we did the African Cup of Nations, we also did this poll saying who would win. And most people said Nigeria, and Nigeria eventually won. Even for UEFA, I mean, most people also said Real Madrid would win. I think, again, it's just the love of sports, the love of the game. But the methodology is scientific.
Yeah, because
Yes.
football is not mathematics.
Yes. The methodology is scientific. Well, again, so a lot of things can drive, remember, it's a perception. So a lot of things can drive that, which, again, the love of the game and patriotism.
Okay, Oge Modi is the CEO of NOI Post. Thank you for speaking with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
All right, then we'll be back and then talk about sports. I think I'll ask Nnamdi if he participated in this poll and see what he said. Join us again.